Go ahead.
It's still in my mouth.
It wasn't open.
Yes. I'm having I know it seems like they should. People think it's a sponsor.
Wow.
I don't want to say people. It sounds like people are saying.
Yeah, a lot of people.
But I've received a number of emails about.
Hell yeah.
Bear Bells, which initially I thought was called Bear Bella, but I think it was you and Chairman Kurt who set me straight.
Yeah, Bear Bells is...
These protein bars.
It's elite.
I mean, they're just the best.
Yeah. Here, to prove that they're not an advertiser, there's nothing on the table.
Oh, wow.
Their birthday cake flavor is like the worst protein bar I've ever had.
So you just told me that before we started this thing up.
Yeah.
It's the Tim McKernan show, by the way. It's unbelievable. What's going on here?
So because they have like their highest highs...
These are protein bars, by the way. They're 200 calories, only 18 grams of carbohydrates, and 20 grams of protein. I like the ratio. I like the caloric intake. It keeps my body nice and trim.
Yeah, and of course the taste is next level.
Oh my God! Yeah,
it
it's
tastes
like I never have candy bars.
Yeah, it tastes. There's
The Pope just says he spent $60 on Bear Bells yesterday. I wish they were a sponsor. We need to get them on board.
For real, I think they're an Australian company, or at least they started. In
Haley
Australia.
Davies.
Is that just an Australian?
She is Australian. Jackson's going to play dumb.
I don't know who Haley Davies is.
Boy, by the way, head to the Twitter tweets. I'm really proud of my cute boy gift today. I asked Jackson. Here, I gotta.
This is a lounging cute boy.
I'm really pleased with it.
All these guys weigh like 125 pounds.
Like, I mean, all due respect, because we don't want to fat shame, we don't want to kink shame on this podcast. But have you ever seen like a cute fat boy?
Remember...
like you can say he's hot, but is he cute?
Because he still looks the exact... He's on TikTok now, and he kind of still looks the exact same from the movie. The great Hambino from Sandlot.
You're attracted to him?
No, but he's kind of like a fatter, cute boy. Because he looks still just like he did in the Sandlot, whenever that came out in the late 80s, early 90s. Is that 89, maybe?
Oh, man. God.
That would have been the same year as Field of Dreams, and I doubt James Earl Jones would have done both of those. Oh, I was off.
I was going to go... I don't even remember what you said.
I said 89, but that's not the correct answer.
I wasn't going there. God, but then now, because you're saying I was off, and that means to me 90's not in play. So I'm going to go with 92 to get me 93 and 91.
93.
If you don't say that, so in a way, I don't know if I can count that as a win. You know?
Yeah.
It's like I bladed the chip and it went in, but deep down,
Because you were probably a little, just a touch older than like the base that Sandlot was really going for. I'm sure you saw it, but...
I did. And I think we would always go to see movies for my mom's birthday, and I feel like that's one that we went to.
Yeah, that's a good family pick.
Yeah. We saw The House on Chasey Lane for mine. Haley Davies is Australian.
Okay, is she a stag star?
She is.
Got it.
What, are you going to shame her?
No, not at all. I just wasn't aware.
Name 4 stag stars. See if Jackson.
Lisa Ann.
Nice.
A Bella Danger.
Nice. Yeah, I guess you're going to be able to get home.
Ella Reese Baby. And I'll go with someone who's rarely ever mentioned on the show. Phoenix Marie.
Phoenix Marie? That's like a... Now, I know who she is, but I can't imagine many people know. How the fuck do you know about Phoenix Marie?
My little freak boy now.
I'm just surprised you know.
I thought she was like a pretty big star.
If she's like a tall kind of...
Yeah. Yes. Sturdy.
Meat and potatoes.
Yeah. Some might call her having an athletic build.
Hey, God bless. I tip my cap. I doff my cap on the field. I thought you were just going to go Abigail Mack because once you got the first two.
Right. I mean, I could just go with the ones from TMA, but, I can dabble outside.
Active YouTube chat. Good to see. My cute boy gift making things happen. I probably never completed like any of the thoughts.
The Bear Bell, let me just I'll finish my loop on the Bear Bells. The birthday cake one.
Good. Then I can finish my caramel and cashew protein bar while you do this. It's got to be annoying, though, me unwrapping the thing. You can hear that in the mic, I'm sure.
Whatever. For how good their best stuff is, and their best stuff is as good as it gets, the birthday cake one is one of the worst thing I've ever had because inside the actual bar, it looks kind of like the one you're eating right now, except inside the bar itself, I would describe it as having shards of what I can only imagine is them trying to recreate what sprinkles are like.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like compressed sprinkles, but they're hard as a rock.
Oh, my.
And like the first time I bit down on it, I thought I broke all my teeth.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah,
Yeah, man, this is my little office bag, the little handbag I carry around.
Yeah, the orange one is a wheat.
This is what I have in here. This one's chalk. I mean, for real, this should be like an organic sponsorship.
Yeah, they should just come right on board.
I'm just giving free advertising.
One of them looks quite flattened.
Yeah, this is what happened in my golf bag this year. I would bring one out because I didn't want to like eat shit while I'm playing. I'd have a banana, and then I'd have a protein bar, and then I'd just go low. And then when it was summer, it would somehow open up, and then the chocolate leaked all over my handles.
Grips,
yeah. And then the next thing I know, I'm, wiping off what looks like, scat play.
Right.
Hot scat play.
Yeah, if you're into shit play, we're not going to get mad at you.
We're just not going to kink shame on this podcast. Thanks to James Carlton for sponsoring it. He's online at carltoninsurance.net. Thanks to Mark Hanna for sponsoring it. He's online at evergreenstl.com. Thanks to Seth Goldcamp and Design Air Heating and Cooling for sponsoring it. They're online at designairservice.com. And thank you to Jamie Burkhardt and Peter Munganest for sponsoring it. And they're online at Munganest. But it's stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. Munganest, St. Louis Acura, Munganest, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. And my wife's getting new tires on her whip as we speak. I think she might be picking that thing up.
Nice.
And Ryan Seiberg, yesterday we were talking with him at Munganest. He's like, hey, I can patch this thing up. Who knows what she ran over. But you've already had it patched up a few times, probably ready for new tires. You can survive on these things. I'm like, hey, I got a responsibility here to this lady, and she's driving around my son's. You know what? Well, let's get the new tires, right? Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
Why not?
So, Munganest, St. Louis Acura, Munganest, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. All right, we got the tip of the cap to the audience, as always. The inbox. I'm just gonna go in order. It's not a Sadie Hawkins.
Sure.
Micah Sage, who's been a guest on the podcast, has sent in and I'm not saying this, I'm just saying because it was sent in at 9:13 this morning, so I haven't had a chance to read it. Tim, I've been a college football fan as long as I've been able to make memories. Like you, I grew up in a Notre Dame house, Catholic home with 5 kids, 2 of which attended Notre Dame, neither of whom were me. I quite enjoyed the first giant realignment that occurred over a decade ago, where Mizzou and A&M joined the SEC, Utah and Colorado, Pac-10 becoming Pac-12, the Big Ten added Nebraska, Maryland, and Rutgers. This last round has me a little less excited, and I'm wondering why. The easiest explanation is that the tradition of the sport is changing, and I've been used to the conferences as they were, but that doesn't add up considering I enjoyed the first big conference shakeup. But this QFTA submission isn't about that. Oh, my God. Did I just get bait and switched?
Yeah, that was
I don't know what's going to happen here. For some reason, I want to stand. And I have no idea why, but I'm going to do it.
Right.
But this QFTA submission isn't about that. I've been seeing a lot of people really excited for the new divisional matchups in college football this season. For example, Michigan, USC last week, Texas, Georgia, OSU, Oregon, Penn State, USC, etc. And yes, I'm more than intrigued and looking forward to those matchups, but I'm wondering if the excitement is mostly due to it being a unique matchup to begin with. I'm curious if these matchups will be just as exciting in 10 years as they are now. To attempt a parallel comparison, when MLB instituted interleague play in 1997, I was pretty excited that we'd be able to see matchups we'd not otherwise see unless the unlikely event happened where those teams would face each other in the World Series. The Cardinals versus the Yankees, or Yankees-Dodgers, for example. Heck, even the Cardinals playing the other teams from Chicago. The White Sox is a nice change-up. But, and I think you've pointed this out before on one of your 20 podcasts, the excitement for interleague play has died down considerably. It's not quite as exciting as it used to be. The Cardinals taking on the Royals every year doesn't have the same feel as it did back in 97 when we had the opportunity to, quote, avenge the Denkinger series of 85. So, my question is, do you think the conference's realignment excitement will die down in the subsequent years? Will the USC, Penn State, or Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama matchups become ho-hum in the year 2034? That's assuming the whole college football thing doesn't just become a league of its own, where the 30 best programs break off and do their own thing. A theory of mine I've had for a while. Stay golden, pony boy. That's from Micah, a.k.a. the Bard of Lombard. There you go.
A lot there.
I like where he's coming from. I guess my premise is this. I'm not excited about college football this year because of USC going to Ann Arbor or
Ohio State going to Oregon.
Ohio State, which actually happened. I know Oregon went there and beat them a few years ago. Texas and Alabama played last couple of years, even though they weren't in the same conference at the time. Oklahoma just hosted Tennessee. So for me to answer that, I'm not necessarily all excited. If anything, I would say, it's just like I don't know who's in conferences. I could give you the last 40 World Series winners. I think we did that last week. I don't think I could name all the members of the 4 big conferences.
Yeah, the Power 4.
Thank you. I don't think I could.
I could only because of playing the video game.
There you go.
Yeah, but I think on the realignment thing, like giant realignment is different this time around because a conference completely folded. Of all of the members had to find new homes. So even though, like you said, 10 years ago there was a big realignment, it kind of pales in comparison to what happens when one major conference completely shuts down and all of those teams need to go somewhere else. And they split up between Big 12 and a little Big 10, some ACC.
Yeah, sprinkled in.
So that's going to mess some things up. But I think I think there will be kind of, I don't know if it'll have the same interleague play thing because some of the teams that are down this year will come up, and then that will change. Like you'll get, like Michigan State is not a great team this year, but they might be good in the next 5-10 years, and them playing.
And they have been. They actually have been in the college football playoff. I think they got their holes stomped.
Right.
God, who beat the shit out of Michigan State? Somebody beat the shit out of Michigan State.
Probably Georgia or Bama, if I had to guess.
I think it was Roll Tide.
Yeah, but think about when Michigan State can pop up and be good, and they go to Oregon or they'll go to USC. There will be, because it is cyclical. Obviously, the big dogs will still big dog, but there'll be other teams that pop up, Iowa, or if Nebraska returns to full prominence, full Nebraska prominence. Think how cool it'll be for them to go to USC and Michigan and Ohio State. So I think, because of the cyclical nature of college football, there will still be some variety in that matter.
December 31st, 2015, number 2 Alabama beat number 3 Michigan State 38-0 at the AT&T Arlington, Texas Cotton Bowl Classic.
See, and that's just another reason why the 12-team playoff is awesome, because when you have the 4-team, you could have a stinker game like that, and that's one third.
More often than not.
1/3 of the college football playoff games are a total joke. Or, like TCU, Georgia. You can't have that. Can't have it.
I apologize. I'm eating.
Oh, please. And then in terms of the second part, where he said, now I can't remember what he said.
It's about MLB and interleague play.
Right. Okay. I don't have much of a take on that.
I do. So I was saying on college football, I'm not excited because of these random matchups that seem random that will, as he said, will be like, oh, yeah, Penn State's playing USC. In 10 years, if they're still in the same conference, it'll be like, oh, they've played a bunch. I agree with that. That's good foresight because the baseball analogy is perfect. But that's not why I'm excited about college football this year. And I don't know if people are excited about those because it also features matchups like Stanford and Syracuse.
Right.
So it isn't all clean, so to speak. I'm excited about the 12-team playoff, and I'm anxious to see how my emotion, goes throughout the course of this. And certainly, it's rooted in part in Missouri. But I think, usually the tough month for me, I know you're a college basketball guy, is February, and to an extent March. But March, I can start jerking myself off into, hey, it's almost over.
Right.
But February is just like, God, there's no football. But the NHL sometimes has, the Olympics and breaks. Yeah. I really wish that somehow there'd be something there for me. I know you're NBA and college basketball. But anyway, what it's going to be like on a dreary Saturday and Friday night and Saturday, I guess, for the college football playoff in late December. Obviously, I hope Missouri's involved, or it'd be great if they somehow won the SEC, and they weren't, but whatever. I will be so locked into those 4 games.
So awesome.
I will be at least I think I will. Maybe I won't be. I don't know, but that's my mindset now. So that's why I'm excited for college football.
Yeah, I think the atmospheres alone at some of these places, and if they can get one in a Penn State or an Ohio State or one of these premier venues for college football, I think I don't think Americans are have seen anything like what the atmosphere is going to be like. I think we've seen big college football atmospheres, no doubt, but this is going to be like that with everything on the line. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's going to be so hard for some of these road teams to go in there and get wins. It's going to be so hard.
And the conditions, I mean, that's
we
the
could
other
have
thing.
snow, could have freezing cold temperatures.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, that's just so cool. That's why I want like one northern team to host a game, whether that be Penn State or Michigan.
So you're a Nittany nationalist.
If it means high quality college football in December, then if I have to be, I'll root for. I'm still rooting for Illinois in that game.
Getting 17.5. But I think that I love the observation on the interleague play thing. This is so great. This is so great. Well, is it that exciting now when the Cardinals are playing? You know, they've been playing. They played everybody in baseball this year. I mean, I realize the Cardinals in excitement this year. It's the context is there hasn't been any, but yeah, I don't know. I realize I remember Bob Costas was labeled like old school because he didn't like the wild card. And so I can get labeled as that. It's fine. I'm not going to go, I guess I'll say I like it so people won't say it's old school. I don't give a shit. I think the unique element of the World Series of two teams that never play each other, getting a chance to play each other and find out who the absolute best is, ideally after taking the best from the regular season, it has been pissed upon. And I have, on a level of 1 to 10 going into baseball's postseason, a 1. And if I could go lower, I would. I don't even know if I could tell you. I guess I could tell you who's going to be in the playoffs. The American League's a little up for grabs, but there is no division race,
right.
I suppose. I mean, I guess not everybody's clinched, but it's going to take miraculous things.
Gotta get rid of divisions. In basketball, baseball, and hockey. Just get rid of divisions.
They were created for travel purposes.
Right. But that, I mean, we've kind of, it's a little antiquated. Like,
Right.
just totally get rid of the divisions. Just have each league.
I just want, I value regular seasons being rewarded. That's where I am. And then therefore you're like, these are the best teams.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. That's where I am, and especially in a regular season that's 162 games. But here's the thing. I'm not saying everybody else should. I know that I'm in the minority on this. I think most people enjoy all of these wild cards.
Yeah.
I just think it sucks that whereas the bye in college football is incredibly valuable. I mean, the Missouri bye is so optimal from a
Right.
timing standpoint after the Vanderbilt situation, going into what is really their most important game of the year. I realize Alabama has the most upside, but it also doesn't have much downside unless you get 70-0 or something like that.
Right.
The bye in baseball does not work that way.
No.
And so, I don't know, there just isn't really a reward for it. Anyway, I have a feeling that's going to change too.
Yeah, and if they wanted to even add, like if they wanted to, for whatever reason, like they do in NHL and NBA, like make it top 8 teams from each league get in. If you got rid of divisions, I'd be okay with it because at least the best 8 teams are going to make it. I would prefer to have a little bit longer playoff series, but I understand weather is a big part of that. But just get rid of divisions. The NFL is the only league that actually needs divisions. Everyone else can totally be. I mean, the NBA and NHL don't even like. Or I shouldn't speak about the NHL, but the NBA doesn't even care about divisions. Just the top 8 teams from each conference. What the fuck are the divisions for?
I guess
You play them more. You play them 4 times as opposed to a minimum 2.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I just value. I value regular season, especially in baseball. I just don't know how you can play 162 games, you win your division, and then you can be gone in 48 hours. It's just for the life of me. But I feel like I'm one of the only people saying anything about it. If anything, where you'll hear like a Ken Rosenthal talk about it, it's like baseball knows it has a problem on its hands. Brian Snitker was one of the most outspoken ones. You win. It's tough for a baseball team and individuals as ball players to come back after not sitting in a batter's box and seeing that kind of velocity and then turning it back on like a switch. And that's why you've seen the 1 seeds and 2 seeds have problems after having the bye.
They basically have to play their own like simulated games with
That's
themselves.
what he tried to do last week or last year, and then it pissed off the Phillies when he was blaming that on there.
Right.
So yeah, anytime a 1 or 2 seed wins in the playoffs, I get emails from and I'm just like, yeah, okay, I don't know what to say. I mean, the body of work on it is. And it's not even just that. Oftentimes we cite the 2006 Cardinals World Series and the Tigers sitting around for a week. Jackson.
Yo.
We have an erotic story.
All right.
Now, it comes from the email address Engine Joe.
All right. Nonetheless, you know what that does is just deflates everything.
Happy birthday, Tim. My friend Tammy came over last night, and I thought you might get a kick out of what happened. She immediately pounced upon my nether region, gently touching it, her breast rubbed against mine, her firm nipples pushing against my soft skin. Her kisses moved down my neck and around my chest. I let my hands trace circles around her back as I squirmed underneath her. She moved her way down my body to my sweetness. You like that? Named after Walter Payton?
Yeah. He is sweet.
She slipped her hands underneath my thighs and pushed upwards, forcing me to wrap my legs around her. She kept her eyes locked with mine as her tongue began to probe.
Yeah, I mean, jeez.
This is what Hubbard Marty says. I really like your guys' podcast, but when you start reading porn to each other.
On this case in particular, I might be siding with Hubbard Barty. I mean, more
Yeah, but there's a picture of it.
Ah, right, of course. But no, more likely he made like a frozen pizza, maybe a side of some veggies, and watched some Netflix blockbuster and then went to bed. That's what happened.
It culminates. That's the deal. Banana peel. That's from bikini model Brittany. Right. So unbelievable that she listens to this podcast and sent that in.
It is nice.
With an image too.
Yeah. Is it?
She's dyed her hair. She used to be blonde. She's brunette.
We appreciate the effort nonetheless.
Let's see what I got here. Boy, this is a really good one, but it's so in depth. Go Illini, no name, please. We'll just open it up. I mean, it's a very good email. I appreciate the email. This gentleman has sent in good emails before. He's, I think, a sharp guy, and he's disagreed with. I don't know if he's disagreed with you. I just can recall him disagreeing, but does so with facts and not like a
coming at it in good faith.
Yes, so I enjoy that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the email, there's so much there. I hope he would understand me not reading the whole thing. Tim and Jackson, I'm getting caught up on old podcasts and was listening to LBJ would have been great on TMA. Yeah. Was that the name of a TMA or a Tim McKernan show?
Tim McKernan show.
No, is that right?
Yeah.
I always enjoy when you all talk politics and believe if society were to discuss them in the manner you all do, facts and motives instead of emotion, we would be in a much better place. And for the record, if I'm not mistaken, this gentleman is a conservative, if memory serves. So it's not like he's like,
Right.
Apologies for the long email, but this feels as topical as ever, as while I was writing this, another assassination attempt took place on Donald Trump. Despite the aforementioned episode being over a month old, I have I guess then this one predates the last one then.
Yeah.
How about that? Because this was sent on September 16th. Despite the aforementioned episode being over a month old, I have two questions arising from this discussion that I believe are evergreen for the remainder of this election cycle. And he goes into, I guess, my thoughts on the Biden situation and him being removed or chose to resign or not run again, whatever you'd want to call it. Number one, Republican involvement in the Biden coup. Regarding your opinion, and I agree that Biden was essentially set up to lose his spot as the 2024 Democratic Party nominee. With the June debate, you said, quote, those involved in the coup d'etat of the Biden administration may not have just been Democrats. Let's end this, as in, he puts in parentheses, Trump is the face of the Republican Party. Let's get her, Kamala, in there and put this to bed, Trump's candidacy. Then he quoted me there, and so, I guess he's asking what I think on that. I did not go into that. When I saw Biden walk out on the stage in the first few minutes of that debate, to revisit for those who don't listen to all of these, and that's when we got into our 10-1 bet. I just went upstairs. My wife was not watching. I said, if you're not watching the debate, I don't know what's going on. All I know is Joe Biden's not going to be inaugurated in January of 2025. I have no idea what's going on. All I know is this is it for him. I have no idea what's going on. And I was by no means like, oh, great, now Kamala Harris. And I don't think many people were either. And if people were saying that, I think there's going to be that's a lot of revisionist history. That's not the way things were. I think the conversation, I think of Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer. I feel like I'm missing another obvious. I mean, Michelle Obama's always there.
Judge.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't think that was ever really. I feel like it was more Whitmer and Newsom and maybe the Michelle Obama thing. But,
right.
Yeah, I do think that exists. I'm not saying it's everywhere, but a portion of Republicans going, it would suck to lose power, but at least this would be over because this has been going on for 3 presidential election cycles in addition to 3 midterms. So that would be a nice thing to not have to deal with, or I guess 2 midterms, 18 and 22, if I'm correct. So, yes, but I don't think that that they're like, oh, that'll be Kamala Harris. I don't know.
Sure.
All I know is I saw that and I thought something isn't right. Now, it could have just been he just was off and it looked bad and people are like, holy crap, he's not going to win. And it could have been all
reaction after the fact, not
not as House of Cards as I have presented it.
Right.
So, in other words, I may have arrived at what wound up being correct, but I may have not had the right thought process, for example.
Well, not the thought process that might have happened. It's always going to be speculation with this stuff.
So, it's like, oftentimes I'll draw the analogy of, what were you doing calling with King Jack all in pre-flop? And then somebody goes, well, I won, didn't I? And it's like, it's like, okay. That could be that could be where it is. And then what's the second one? Political strategization. And then there's just a lot of here. I don't know what to. I mean,
oh boy.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it to mock it because if anything, I appreciate the thought put into it.
Yeah, definitely.
There's just a whole lot there, and I gather, and it might not. He's conservative. I think what he's trying to present is that Trump's label isn't necessarily fair, and that's to each their own. God bless America. Jackson, you have any new thoughts on the presidential election or any other thoughts you'd like to talk about? Or
my mind's been set for a while now. Not going to change.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily looking for that. I'm like what your observations are, what you think's going to happen, or any other things going on. Comings and goings and comings. Kamala Harris now minus 120 to win per Bovada. Donald Trump is even.
Candidly concerned about some of the rhetoric going on out there, and but I think it's always an election cycle. Things seem like it's going to be skies falling. Rarely happens. So just stay in the course. I know I'll be voting for in November, and not going to change my mind probably. And we'll keep rolling. We'll just keep rolling. Is what we're going to do.
Look at you.
Yeah, we'll be all right. We're all going to be all right.
Oh my gosh. Doggy season ticket holder says, I'd hire Tim if I ran for office. He'd crush running a campaign. Now, if we were on TMA, Doug would bang the gong.
Yeah. Well, if I could be your vice, I'm in.
Oh, you're in?
Well, yeah,
I mean, I'm running his campaign. Doggy season ticket holder is running in the YouTube chat. He wants me to run the campaign.
Maybe I could be his
He wants me to
vice.
be his Karl Rove.
Maybe I could be his vice.
Okay. Yeah. I'll run your campaign.
I like couches.
I don't know what the reasoning is, because I take my own. I think I take my own feel when I'm observing. I wasn't like Joe Biden's the guy when I was making the observation in February 2020.
Right.
I just make like what I think the moves are going to be, and they strike me as obvious. But I don't know why I've happened to be correct on them. I don't. But I don't really think I get into politics because I know I don't know a lot of shit. That's kind of where I am. So like to sit here and go, I'll tell you another thing. It's like that's not really.
Yeah, there's plenty of people who do that. But.
Yeah, but that's not where I am, and I don't want to be dishonest with the audience or disingenuous. And then if I do say something that's incorrect, I want to make sure I correct it from a factual standpoint.
Yeah.
I'm anti-dogma. I think if there's one thing that I could say that I am comfortable, I'm anti-dogma. But dogma is not just religion. That's what I'm anti.
Yeah.
And so I think what dogma allows that isn't just religion, but I'm just going to blindly follow this leader / cult of personality or this political party, is it allows people at the table to make decisions for other people's lives and our country, and then other governments, for that matter, who have zero credentials outside of they are one of the spokespeople for the dogma at the table. And that is a dangerous thing. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like you could have dogma that is not strictly religious.
Right.
That is, That is, but I think dogma oftentimes is attached to religion. In other words, blindly following with no critical thought. That's something that I'm not down with.
Sure.
And so therefore, you have to, deep down, may not be a religious person, but you got to, stroke people with saying all these things that you just don't believe. I'm sure plenty of people have believed them. I doubt many people truly right now do. As far as people who ascend to that office.
Right.
I mean, hey, if you really think Donald Trump's a passionate Christian, God bless, maybe it is. I don't know. I know what I think, but and I wouldn't imagine Kamala Harris is either. I'm pretty certain Barack Obama isn't either. Doesn't make him a bad guy, doesn't make her a bad woman, doesn't make Trump a bad guy. I'm just saying that I think that these things are said because you got to kind of play the game when you go out into knowing that a healthy portion of the country views these things this way. And then you can have it with you take your pick of like social issues, thinking, okay, this would be really unpopular if I were to say this, so I got to say this. That's the dogma that I'm talking about for the purpose of setting the record straight. Let's see. The real question is what has to happen to somewhat unite everyone? Everything is so divisive, and it seems like normal conversations can't happen without one side losing their mind. That's from MD 2020. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was January 6th. I was wrong, and then I kind of withdrew after that was there was revisionist history on what transpired with that, and then I guess I got more. I guess just because of the election in 2024, I've been paying attention to. I think it was the debate. I don't even know I was really intending on watching that in June, and then when I saw it, I'm like, ooh, there's shit going on, and I wasn't really thinking that there was going to be shit going on. And then I saw that, I go, ooh, there's shit going on. So then I got into it, and I left one out there, not betting a large amount of money on him not being the nominee, Joe Biden, that is. You're always welcome to send your emails in, McKernan at InsideSTL.com, TMCKERNAN at InsideSTL.com. All right, Jackson, I mean, this podcast can go anywhere. We've got the wonderful story from bikini model Brittany. That was hot.
Red hot.
We've got the college football realignment. We've got the political conversation, and now we're on Mizzou strength of schedule. I mean, this goes anywhere.
Damn right.
Is the Mizzou weak strength of schedule thing overblown? Yes, they've played a couple cupcakes, but so have many teams. Let's use Tennessee as an example, or as a sample. Tennessee's played Chattanooga, NC State, ranked 24 at the time, and Kent State, and play UTEP in November. This was sent in before the Oklahoma game, for the record. Tennessee's ranked win barely beat Western Carolina and Louisiana Tech at home. The next argument they have for them is they play Bama at home and Georgia on the road. This year, Mizzou has A&M and Bama both on the road. Outside that, they have a pretty much similar strength of schedule. It looks like Mizzou's strength of schedule is 30 and Tennessee's 45. Why does it seem like Mizzou is getting hell for their schedule, but Tennessee seems to get theirs overlooked? Well, he didn't include Oklahoma in that conversation, correct? I mean, they went to Norman. That's a different deal.
That was their first road game.
Right.
Did they beat NC State on the road, or is that in... I'm crowdsourcing.
I know you're crowdsourcing right now. I think that was in wherever the hell that would be. But either way, listen, there is nothing I want more than to watch Missouri win a national championship in college football. And I will be emotionally attached to that until it is no longer in play for this season. However, I have a responsibility to be honest with the people who watch or listen to the shows I'm on, and we can't do this thing where we're going to act like, the Missouri schedule is so weak that what takes place in the first week of December with the college football playoff thing, if I had to circle something that I'm like, oh my God, the ultimate Missouri thing would be the first year of the college football playoff, and somehow Missouri is left out at something that like no one saw coming, and then like a 9-3, I don't know who, Notre Dame or something. Notre Dame's schedule's pretty weak too.
Yeah.
Like this thing about listen. As I've said before, and it's not fair that I cite him, but he's like the Mizzou guy, and I also happen to have a friendship with Gabe DeArmond, going back to us being in journalism school at the same time. I disagree with his premise that the Vanderbilt thing's over. A win is a win, because I think that could come if they're deciding between teams. You will hear about. Now, I hope Missouri's in that position, by the way, because that means they've gone at worst 10-2.
Yep.
I think that can be used against them. That's why I'll be pulling for Vanderbilt in a big way. I'm pulling for Boston College in a big way this coming weekend. Pulling for Alabama in a big way. Wanted Texas A&M to beat Bowling Green, which might sound weird, but definitely wanted that to happen in a big way. A Notre Dame fan, second to Missouri, but wanted to see them lose as often as possible. Definitely want Illinois to beat Penn State, but keep an eye on Illinois. Illinois might be a problem for Missouri as this thing develops. Either way, Missouri's schedule is so weak that when it's all said and done, if indeed they lose to Alabama, it's up for grabs what the best win's going to be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely.
You know, I mean, I'm not looking for you to disagree with me, and I guess you're confused by what, you know, because of what is there to say? It's just like, yeah, absolutely. Because if you lose to Alabama, the best win is probably one of three.
Yeah, you could
rankings-wise, and I'm not sure. As crazy as it might sound, I think when the conference championship games are done, I think Boston College might be the highest-ranked team that Missouri's beaten.
Yeah, I mean,
if they lose to Alabama, and that's based on A&M already having a loss, and then Missouri, in order to be in the conversation, probably has to beat A&M.
Yeah.
Which means they got another two. I know they play Texas. I don't know who else they got. I'll look up the Texas A&M schedule because I'm sure there's other losses out there for Texas A&M.
Yeah, because the SEC schedule, now that Texas and Oklahoma are in it, it's kind of crazy that Mizzou has the schedule that they have, where you don't play Georgia.
And your non-conference includes, Murray State, Buffalo, and UMass. I mean, it's just like it's going to get. If anything, it's going to get a lot of negative attention when the UMass thing. Assuming Missouri beats Texas A&M, Missouri loses Texas A&M, it's probably going to be like there's kind of an also rant, and they had trouble with Vanderbilt and Boston College. For the record, A&M they have Arkansas this week. That's a neutral site, Arlington, Texas. So they could lose that. Need A&M to win that game,
Big time, yeah.
And I'm not sure they will. Then Missouri's at Kyle Field. They're at Mississippi State, at home against LSU, at South Carolina, at New Mexico State, at Auburn, and then they're at home against Texas. So, I mean,
there's a loss or two.
There's a possibility of them having 4 or 5 losses.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
The Oklahoma thing, I think most people had a feeling that wasn't necessarily a great football team.
Yeah, they've now moved on from Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, Michael Hawkins will get the start this weekend.
But Oklahoma not only had what they had this past week with Jackson, you're very high on the Volunteers going in, and that game was not nearly as close as the final score.
That was not a 10-point football game.
It was not a 10-point football game. But they still have Texas coming up, but they're at Auburn this week. Then they have the Texas game in Dallas. They're home against South Carolina, at Ole Miss, I was about to say, it's at home against Maine. I was about to say, my God, Missouri's catching shit for UMass. I didn't know Maine had a program. That Maine game is at home. Wow, Maine.
I didn't know that there was D1 schools north of UMass.
I mean, holy shit. Wow. Then at Columbia, then at Alabama. No, Alabama's in Norman, and then at Baton Rouge.
Jesus
holy
Christ.
shit.
Yeah, I mean,
They have coming up. I mean, I can't imagine the Auburn thing's going to. But Texas, Tennessee's already up. Tennessee, Texas, at Oxford, at Columbia, at home against Alabama, at Baton Rouge.
Jeez.
I mean,
yeah, I mean,
so if they're a 5 or 6 loss team, they're not going to be in there. And I'm telling you, when you look at Boston College's schedule, Boston College is the team that I think is the one that's kind of a sneaker. Would be South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could. I mean, that game, if they would have beat LSU, that would have really.
It would have been a great thing.
Yeah, I was rooting hard for them.
Yes,
a block penalty.
But I can't spin this. It's a thing. So here's the thing. So not only do you have the Vanderbilt double overtime deal, if Missouri were to get blown off the field by Alabama, it's not just like you lose, you're playing, it's house money. I disagree with that. So those are my 2 things I disagree with. This is like, I don't like Gabe, so I'm going to go off on him. It's not that. I don't think it's house money. You gotta play well. Missouri had equity last year. The LSU thing, they played them tight, but LSU wasn't a great team. Good team, very good team. Great quarterback. Love to see it translate to the NFL so far for Jane Daniels. But it was the Georgia game, and then it's like, holy shit, they hung with them. And in particular, they're hanging with them in the trenches. And then they go and they beat the shit out of Tennessee the week after that. And then it's like, okay, this team is for real.
Yep.
I think Missouri fans overvalue the bowl game. But hey, fine, that's a sensitive spot for Missouri fans, fine. It doesn't change anything, but that's one of the reasons why I was on the under this year, and also undervalue like how close things were with Florida in particular. So with that all established, I worry that a 10-2 Missouri team with a blowout loss to Alabama is probably going to be on the outside looking in.
And I think that might be right, because if your 2 losses are to, let's say, Oklahoma and Alabama, those are the only 2 teams on the schedule as it appears right now that like seem like actual contenders, and even Oklahoma that's a big stretch saying that right now. If you're to lose to those 2 teams, especially if you get your ass kicked in Tuscaloosa, and you're like, well, we're 10-2, but it's like you're 10-2 beating up on,
who's your best win?
Right.
Is it A&M, Boston College, South Carolina? I mean,
right.
That's
it's just not going to resonate.
That's the thing, and it's not about. It's not okay. They're a 2-loss team. They're a 3-loss team. I don't think it's going to be about both. I think it's going to be your quality of wins.
That's why I was against Florida State being in last year, because I was like, yes, they are undefeated.
Well, what I'm saying is because of what they did with Florida State, that will now be used like a Supreme Court ruling as a precedent.
Yeah.
Now, I disagree with it, but either way, I can disagree with it all day. It tells me that that's what's going to happen going forward, and they will manipulate. And I'm not saying it's done with malice or like a payoff, but like I said on Balloon Party, Georgia's win against Kentucky gets explained away.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri's win against Vanderbilt is like, oh, what's going on with Missouri?
Proof of concept.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it's already established. But with that said, you can't, and I don't think I hear a lot of Missouri fans. I mean, this email, in fairness to this gentleman, was sent last week before Tennessee played and before Missouri played, before Tennessee played Oklahoma, before Missouri played Vanderbilt. But Missouri, if anything, I would say I'm higher on Missouri right now than I feel like the hardcore Missouri fans are, because I went back and I rewatched that game, and I'm like, they really did dominate that game up and down the field, just had issues when they got to the red zone. But that has been a problem. But Missouri has been, what is the number Gabe had? Like 36 times they've, 44 possessions they've been in the opponent's territory. I mean, it's...
Yeah. If you run the ball like they do, like it'd be kind of crazy to not get 3 and outs. Like, because if you start your drives essentially at 2nd and 6 at the worst, or 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, I mean, your life just got so much easier. You can take a shot downfield on 2nd
But
and 3.
instead, what they were doing against Vanderbilt in particular, I felt like was throwing on 1st down and then having Noel or Carroll carry it on 2nd down. And so now you're already in a spot. Right. But sometimes they were able to still pick up the 10. The thing that I think as crazy as it sounds, I just can't believe that Brady Cook has, quote, lost it.
That's what I'm saying.
Unless he's hurt. So I can't get there on that. And if they thought if he was hurt, I don't know, and like really worried about his arm, then when you're down 7 in overtime, I just don't believe they're going to go, okay, Brady, you're throwing a 20. And listen, Luther Burden had plenty of steps on that defender. I just don't think that's the direction you're going with the seat. So I feel good about that. So where my concern is, as crazy as it sounds, because the defense dominated that football game, might not look like it, I guess, because you gave up 27 points to Vanderbilt, is the 2 corners in particular, really more so than anything, because you look at the snap count and they're playing 2 guys. They're not playing anybody else. Right. And that 3 members of the secondary last year now in the NFL? Mm-hmm. You have to replace that. Yep. Toriano Pride's been beaten. Yeah. By what appear like they're broken plays, and receivers just...
The BC one definitely broken play. The Vanderbilt
one was just not necessarily staying with your guy. Right. And then it's an open play. And hey, great play by Diego Pavia, but God, that's just not one that's going to happen. Right. You can't, so Jalen Milroe, when you actually have a quarterback who can move and throw and have the kind of wide receivers, that's where it needs to improve. And that's where I'm just like, I just can't believe, because we haven't seen these guys do it yet in Columbia. We have seen Brady Cook do it. And so, one of the talking points that I've heard people, that I think Gabe probably brought up on our show, is just Missouri, the offense runs through Nate Noel. And hey, great. If teams really just go, okay, we're just going to go up against Missouri and stop the run, Missouri's offense still through the air can kill you. I mean, the talent is there.
Yeah, it should be.
So I just have a tough time believing that they can't get that going, and then that could be the breakout. But for him not to get it going against Vanderbilt, that was why that was so. I just don't know how to explain that. I don't know how to. That it was all ground, not all ground, but it was for the most part. I mean, you can't not count the Luther Burden touchdown in overtime, and you can't not count that Brady Cook hit Burden over the middle, and he dropped a ball. I think it was in the second quarter. Yeah. But you also can't ignore that he was underthrowing guys, missing open receivers, and throwing wide. So I don't know how to explain it. All I know is it would be very difficult for me to see to Missouri in the college football playoff if they lose to A&M, because at that point, I think they have to beat Alabama. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many. And listen, I mean, Alabama right now is stocks like this, but it's always the last game. And Alabama was kind of fucking around with South Florida again. The score wound up being a blowout, but they were fucking around with them.
Yeah.
So our opinions, no matter what, probably, I shouldn't say no matter what, of Georgia and Alabama will be shaped by if one of them wins in a commanding fashion, relatively commanding, double digits, 10-point or more win this Saturday night.
Right.
I really like Illinois against Penn State, by the way. I don't know about winning, but 17.5. I was impressed by what I saw I watched them against Kansas, and I watched damn near the entirety of the game against Nebraska, and I don't know. That's a little sneaker value play there. I'm not saying like national champion, but looking at their schedule, they got Michigan at home, and they got a trip to Oregon. Other than that, everything else is winnable on there. So if they can hang with Penn State, keep an eye on that one. If they can win one of those other two.
I'm curious where the money is at for both of these games.
All right, what do we got?
Both the volume and the money is with Illinois against Penn State and the 18 points. I think anytime you have a ranked opponent going in somewhere getting more than 2 touchdown spread, people are going to be on that team. And then Georgia, Alabama, I would think, boy, that spread's dropped a lot. We're now at +2 for Bama.
Well, wasn't it 2.5?
I thought it was a little higher. No, you're right. It opened at 4.5.
Really? It opened at Georgia 4.5?
Yeah, Georgia 4.5. That's what it opened at. And so it's now down to 2.5, which means you'd have to think that all that money is on Bama. I would think that would be the case. Bama at home being the dog.
First time since 2007.
That's why I don't want to bet it, because I feel like the public's in. I've already been square when I took the Raiders at home against the Panthers. I was like, 5.5. Here I go. This will be the sweat-free bet of the week. Nope. I felt I was Johnny Public. Yeah,
that one was. I'm just at peace with not wagering
on NFL.
Just not in general.
Okay.
Really, I mean, maybe I'll just like for the fuck of it. Okay, like last week, I put just a hell of it, a $10 parlay. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm going to be at home watching Illinois and Nebraska. I'll do a stupid shit. I'll light this $10 on fire that includes, 5 games on. Because the game, I think I told you, I love. I know you. Hey, you love James Madison. I don't know if you saw 70 points coming.
No, God,
but I loved
54.
BYU at home against K-State.
Yeah.
So I'll include that one in there. Of course, I should have just bet on BYU and. Right. But what's the fun in that? I'm just like, for as much as now I track dollars, and then I'm like, I just lost. Even if it's only something that isn't that big of a deal, I'm just like, why the fuck?
I hear that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just doesn't do anything for me. My golf gambling, not changing that, because I almost can't play if I'm not gambling, even if it's only for $10, which is pathetic, by the way, I acknowledge.
My rule is now that if I wager on a game, I have to watch the game. So it can't be a thing where I just.
It's not like looking at your stock performance quarterly report.
Right. Like the reason I like to place a little wagers because it makes watching the game just gives it a little added juice, especially like betting totals really fun.
Yeah.
Especially unders. And so if I'm not going to watch the game, then what's the point of me doing it? Because it's really not like I can't make a lot of money doing it, and I can't lose a lot of money doing it, or I guess I very well can lose money doing it. But it doesn't. I don't bet enough where it would really hurt me. Therefore, why not do it unless you're going to watch the game?
I like the season longs because if you really think you have something,
that's where you can get the best edge.
As I said at the start of the baseball season, the play A's over that is covered by a good amount, and the Reds under. And that wasn't me. That was this guy that I'm just like, okay, with large sample size, this guy's a wizard. I think it's Derek Canty's his name. And I loved I was sitting there thinking when I was watching Vanderbilt, like right after they had scored a touchdown and Missouri's getting ready to maybe kick the extra point. In my mind, I'm like, he's going to fucking miss this extra point, and this is going to be brutal. Oh, my God. And then I got to drive home 2 hours. Holy shit.
Yeah, God.
But anyway, I'm like, boy, that under bet, that would have been nice. Because I was thinking of going, like, way heavier than, But I just didn't want to be watching games and pulling against Missouri.
Especially if you have heavy, like, if the upside was heavy.
But then when I would talk about it with some of my buddies, they'd be like, yeah, but then if you're wrong, then that means Missouri's in the playoff. But the thing is, now I don't think 10-2 is necessarily in.
You could get trapped in the middle there.
But I never wanted to get in a spot where I was pulling against Missouri. It's especially in a sports calendar like we're in right now. I mean, if you didn't have Missouri football, or if you're an Illinois fan, didn't have Illinois football. I mean, if you're an Illinois fan, I guess there's a chance you might be a Bears fan, I suppose.
Another NFL team, yeah.
But holy shit.
Yeah, dude.
Whew, cats and dogs. This is our winter of our discontent.
The last time I bet against Missouri, Georgia came to Columbia in 2022.
Oh, I was on the Missouri money line then.
I took Georgia minus like 38 or something. It was some crazy number. And of course, I
think I had $100 that was paying $2,000. I think that's what
It wasn't even close, and Mizzou still didn't win that game. So I was like, yep, never doing this again. I will never bet against Missouri again.
The play I loved, and I didn't get it in, was Boston College to win the ACC. Again, not because I think they're that great, but I just look at the ACC. Miami's plus 115, Clemson's plus 225, Louisville's plus 475, and then you get to Boston College. It's now plus 2,200, but I mean, the value's been cut in half.
Clemson looked a lot better against NC, but
Clemson's been putting up points.
NC State might be ass.
NC State went from being ranked against Tennessee to now only ahead of Florida State, Stanford, and Wake Forest in the ACC. All right, how long have we been going here? Hold on, I like to guess. I'm going to say 48 minutes.
Oh, like 50. Yeah. So.
I'm starting to really dial my numbers in. All right, let me see what's doing in the YouTube chat. Oh, I got more QFTA emails. Hey, Tim, I know you always enjoy two-part questions. First is Cardinals related. As a millennial, I need to find any attaboy that I can get. If the Cardinals win 4 or 5 of the last 5 games, does that change the mindset of the season? No. I'm not saying that. I don't want to mean that disrespectfully, but God, I can't imagine anybody's like.
No. I mean, I said on 101 today, they're like step above company softball games at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing 2 teams that are out of it. I mean, they're piling up wins last week against another team. By the way, the Pirates and Rowdy
Tellez fucked up.
He had. We should have talked about that today. On the shows.
4 at bats short of
his plate appearances, not even ABs. Plate appearances. There's just no way that's not.
Against some MLBPA.
Well, it's not that it's just not, hey, we can save $200,000 for that organization.
But what other motivation would they have when they've been out of it for weeks now?
Almighty.
Yeah, dude. That's because the NFL, like one of the fun parts about watching the NFL in the last week of the season, because a lot of teams start, is there's incentives for certain guys. You kind of want to see if they can make an extra $500,000 if they get a certain reception number or something like that.
Yeah, that goes on. I don't really give a shit, but I know it does go on, and it's amusing when guys are mic'd up and they're trying to hook each other up. But I mean, I'm just like that tilts me. And obviously, the Pirates are denying that. Ben Cherington was denying it, but fuck that. Anyway, his question is: if the Cardinals publicize the season as success, if they're an 84-85 win team, I'd be shocked. But again, I feel like I've been shocked by them so much that I shouldn't say I'd be shocked. If they do adopt that narrative, how do you feel that impacts the offseason? They're making moves this off. There's just no. We're sitting here recording this on Wednesday, September 25th, and I would tell you that there will be substantial changes within a week. Now, they might be the changes that people want, like John Mozeliak, not appearing at a press conference to Bill DeWitt announcing that he's been removed and Ali Marmol has been removed. Those kinds of changes. I just don't think they're gonna have that go that way with Mozeliak. No. I mean, who's gonna let him go? Right. The DeWitts? He kind of runs his own thing.
Nor do I think it would be right.
I think it's. What, to like escort them from the organization?
Essentially, like give the people the pound of flesh, like a kind of public, not shaming. That's a little too.
Well, I mean, you terminate people when they don't do their job. I don't get that.
I get that, but I'm saying like so the public can kind of like get Cardinal fans back on board. I don't think.
Well, that wouldn't be I mean, you just make a change because it's not been successful. I mean, that's But I don't think that's the way it's going to be, especially since I think the vision has been for him to be more involved. By the way, I don't know this, but I think to be more on the business side after 2025. And since he's kind of set his timeline, I just don't think that so I think that'll be more along the line of Bloom or someone else, but I'd guess Bloom is going to be transitioning to have a louder voice this offseason, and then he will take over. You'll have the Armstrong, Steen, Mozeliak, Bloom, or somebody else. I don't know on the Ali Marmol thing. I just have a tough time believing the Cardinals would just light that money on fire on the extension.
That's where I'm at.
That's so. I feel like if they do the Mozeliak one, they can then try to spin the Marmol one. Mm-hmm. I guess that's what I'm saying. So let me tell you something. If the organization, if they win like the next, whatever they have, 5 games, and they win, what would that be, an 85-win season? Go, oh, this is more wins than that would be. I mean, you'd really...
Yeah, you're grasping for straws there.
This is... Here's what... I think they are aware that they have been tone deaf. And I guess that's you have to, in order to change it, you have to be aware that there's been a problem.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like St. Louis related. I have been on the radio, not necessarily as much as it's talked about now, but for 2 decades talking about St. Louis city in particular and issues. And not to say that I'm like got it all figured out by any means, but when I was doing it in 2004, 5, 6, and 7, it's like, what are you talking about? Then it became like, now it's like almost in vogue to shit on.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's necessarily a great thing either, but clearly the mindset of what is acceptable to talk about has changed, because initially it's like, what are you talking about? And one of the core issues is, for the most part, people who live here grew up here. And so if you didn't get a chance to see other parts of the country or other cities that are of St. Louis's comparable size or bigger than St. Louis, and kind of scary, smaller than St. Louis, that are moving in a positive direction, your point of reference may be a trip to Chicago, which is kind of the New York City of the Midwest, and so it wouldn't necessarily be a fair comp. And to see just how far behind we are. But it's been that way for a while. Now it's just socially acceptable to talk about it. So it's a good thing that people are talking about there being a problem, in the sense that then that allows there to be change. So that's where I think the Cardinals are. I think inside that building they're aware of that. I'd be shocked if they just go, yeah, everything was fine. And look, we want to put in 84 games. But if that happens, I will be a banty rooster on a sports topic. I actually will be.
I kind of want it to happen now.
That I'll actually be like screaming a sports take.
Yeah. I like when you get all turned.
Second question, and I'll try my best to frame my question as to not bring up the usual failing city conversation. Oh, wow, what a blend, an accidental blend. This was sent at 10:32 this morning. 2 recent businesses that were bright spots for our business, have announced not financial crisis or completely shutting down, with Bar K and the Armory. See message below. Well, we talked about the Armory, but there's no message below. I'm not saying this to be disrespectful. There just isn't a message below. Anyway, in particular with the Armory, the business took an extremely large vacant space and aimed it at a younger demographic. The business shutting down, to me, signals we have finally reached a new low. Do you feel the failure of such a business is the absolute bottom? Love the show, Mr. Tim. That's from the Millennial. Jackson, you hung out at the Armory, correct? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the Armory's closing, which is about 4 hours old here locally?
So my thoughts on the Armory closing, I always enjoyed going there. The whole time I'd be in there, I was wondering, I mean, I get there's a lot of people here, but this is such a massive space. The electricity bill must be through the roof to staff it, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And if you can't connect it to the foundry, because the foundry is bustling all the time. Me and my girlfriend go all the time, and it's always bustling. Always hard to find a parking spot. But if you can't connect those two, like, you have a real, like, full day experience if you were to have the connection there. But if you don't have that, that always sucks. I always thought, like, not like my car getting broken into, but there was no, like, metal detectors. There was no, like, real, like, you just walked in. And, like, anytime you have alcohol and thousands of people all in one space structure, I get a little uneasy, just in general. Like, what if someone brings a beef into the Armory and now people are running for their lives scared? Like, I always felt like that was always like an oversight to an extent. but I always really liked it, and I thought it was a great thing to have in the city of St. Louis. But I can't imagine the overhead on that place and making that back. Like, and it is kind of like St. Louis is a really cool bar town where there's like old classic bars that have been around for 100 years, and the Armory is like more new school, and I just don't know if we have the clientele. Like if you put the Armory in Nashville, I think it would go gangbusters. I just don't know if that's the case in St. Louis.
For the record, I mean, who knows if this is accurate? I don't know, but they're saying they're closing temporarily.
Okay.
I mean, that's
encouraging, I guess. Slightly compared to where it was.
I mean, it's like when somebody suspends their campaign, though. I mean, it's not like you're thinking they're coming back. I don't know. I can't speak to it, but either way, I do not think that this is the low point. I did, and I'm not saying that again to dismiss the question. I guess it just depends on how you look at things. And I'm not saying that this is a good thing. It really might not be good for broadcasting. That I think, oftentimes more of a macro. Someone like, oh well, this does it. I mean, this has been trending this way for a long time. For me, the Armory wasn't a part of my life, but the reaction I've seen to this news that, again, is about 4 hours old, people are really worked up about this. And surprised by it / upset about it, thinking it's another step back for the area. That's why I ask you about it, because I know you spent time there.
Yeah, and I think there's other stuff involved with it. I don't know if it's necessarily like they just weren't making money. I'm sure with almost any case in a business closing that there's more to it, but I'm sure that doesn't help. I just don't think that would help, but I think it is a great thing. I hope it does come back. I hope even if it doesn't under this ownership, that someone else gives it a stab. I just think it's a really cool thing. I can't be more adamant enough that they have to figure out a way to connect the Foundry and the Armory, because the Foundry will always do good. It sells food. They have a movie theater there, putt check. It's always going to do well, and they have parking readily available, semi-easy to access off the highway. But you have to figure out a way to connect the two, because then you have a really awesome thing in the city of St. Louis, like the actual thing, all in the structure, all indoors, semi-outdoors with the Foundry, like super cool area for young people to hang out at. I think it's great. But having those two be totally separate things where you can't access, you have to pick one or the other, is such a detriment. Yeah. It's such a detriment.
So many of the texts that we've gotten during the show were about what you were talking about with walkway.
Yeah, something, because otherwise you have to like drive essentially to get what is 500 feet across from each other.
So along the lines of the Armory, because I can't speak to that. I know you went to it. I think it'd be weird if I were like hanging out there. I mean, I don't know. It feels like it would be, but I'm not really doing much anyway. You know, I mean, it's not what you do when you have 2 young kids. So you can be 47, you can be 27. That's not good. That's just kind of the way life is whenever that time comes, should you have children. My big thing, and I guess maybe I was dismissed because it was quote unquote benefiting me to talk about how young people I feel like are cast aside in St. Louis. And now that I'm not a young person any longer, my message doesn't change because the principle doesn't change. I'm not like, oh, well, what about stuff for 47-year-olds? That's not what I'm saying. I still think one of the biggest issues St. Louis has is we don't have a place or a feel for young, in particular, professionals in that community to hang out and want to be a part of. So that's why this now ties into that. I can't speak to the actual place itself. Wasn't there, didn't hang out there. But this is the same thing I was talking about in the early 2000s, which I was so high on the ballpark, which may have been misguided. But it wasn't my thought process, oh, they'll put bars there. It was people will move there. And then you'll have a residential resurgence, which is what we wound up actually having more on Washington Avenue than what we've had. I mean, you can go, okay, well, there's an apartment building at Ballpark Village, but there isn't a residential resurgence on the south end of downtown. I can't imagine many people would think that. If you do think that, then I would say, hey, look at other downtowns that actually do have a residential resurgence and come back on the downtown St. Louis South End residential thing. But again, I can't imagine anybody's really in good faith saying that. So with that said, I don't know what the solution to that is. But that is the thing that I have observed for there's that, and then a leadership issue, both in the mayor's office and has been, and the county executive's office. Those are the two. And that's the thing, and that's why I just. When people say it's never going to change, it's only going to get worse, it's the worst, it's a low point, all of those things, and I understand it. And I'm not, the last thing I do is just come on and just like say, hey, I think it's all going to be all right if I don't feel that way. But I think things get to a point where pricing is so affordable for investors, not necessarily for young people such as yourself, because it's not. And that goes back to the housing crisis and the Great Recession 16 years ago, and what were the roots of the housing crisis with 2008, and everybody being able to own a house. The Big Short, one of your favorites.
So fucking good.
That if you can get to a point where you already have these buildings that are sitting there, and then people are going, I can't get a house in, take your pick of whatever coastal city or coastal state, even if you're not on the ocean. Right. And going, God, St. Louis is just this kind of like, it's an opportunity that if money comes in, then the young people can follow, because then there's opportunity for younger people to make money. And so, strangely, I think our fortunes in St. Louis, as provincial as I can imagine any top 25 market is. I can't imagine one more provincial. Maybe there is one and I'm not aware of it. As provincial as this one is, I think will actually be tied to outside residents and outside dollars, which then I think would lead to, and I say this respectfully, people such as Tashara Jones and Sam Page having absolutely no chance in the world to be elected and be the leaders of the area. So it's kind of a domino effect. And that's how I see the rise from the ashes. That's how I see the phoenix. But maybe I'm off on that. When you have a bunch of buildings and infrastructure of an old city that is affordable. Now, I realize plenty in our area might be going affordable. What are you talking? I'm trying to buy a house. You might be thinking that internally as I say this. But relative to other top 25 markets, St. Louis would certainly, cost of living wise, be one of the most affordable, maybe the most affordable. And so if you get to a point, interest rates drop, but mortgage rates didn't drop, and if they're not going to drop much more, and a guy like you sits there and goes, fuck, I'm going to be 30 here in 4 years, and I don't have a house, and I'm just peeling off rent, what the fuck? Yeah. What do I do? Imagine somebody who's, people around the country are going, I can't afford to buy a house in Charlotte. I mean, I'm not even going to New York or LA with this. Some of these cities, Charleston, some of these cities weren't necessarily big cities, comparable to St. Louis 25 years ago, that are surging. And go, God, I can get this in St. Louis? Holy shit, my friends moved there and said this is actually, they kind of got some things going on, and now this company's headquarters are there. That, I think, is how, again, and I could be off on this, my confidence is not, or my optimism is not rooted in, I just believe in us, and that kind of like rhetoric.
Plucky.
It's just not, it's like cheap, but infrastructure's there.
Yep.
And there are, not that every place doesn't have this, but there are some sharp people here now who are going, okay, we got a problem. Whereas I think before people are like, it's good. It's good for me. The sun rises over the Mississippi River and it sets over I-270, running parallel to the Mississippi River out along, Des Peres and Sunset Hills. I just think that there's a different perspective on that because it's gotten so bad. So that's how I think it can change. In other words, it's the proverbial buy low, right. and it's getting to a point where it's so low that it's worth, even if you don't think it's got a better than 50% chance, your expected value is so high for such a low price point. If it does hit and you start buying these things up that are just kind of sitting there rotting, or you're buying property up in St. Louis, that you could have, like if you would have said to somebody 30 years ago, Nashville, Tennessee in 2024. Yeah. I mean, I remember going there just for the fuck of it. My wife and I don't think we were married at the time. I don't know what we did. I think we just drove down there for the weekend. I think Vanderbilt was playing a game. We just went to a restaurant. God, what a weird thing. I mean, to think that we could do that. I don't think we went to the Titans game. I think they were out of town. I can remember where the restaurant we ate, we could see the lights of the Vanderbilt Stadium, but it didn't even cross our minds to go to the game. They were like Ole Miss or Auburn. It was only a few blocks from where, I think we ate like near the Vanderbilt campus. But we couldn't get a hotel. And this was a random weekend because there just weren't enough hotels built in Nashville. It's crazy. And this was like 2009 or 10.
Yeah. Just less than 5 years later.
It just takes off. Austin, Texas. I've often said when I talk about my first TV job that Little Rock was a bigger market than Austin, Texas. That sounds like a joke now.
Yeah,
well, that was 25 years ago. These things can happen quickly. If you would have told somebody who was around in St. Louis in the 1960s that St. Louis would be falling behind, some of the cities were falling behind now, both from a population standpoint, but also from a market ranking standpoint, they couldn't wrap their minds around that. It was a top 10 market. Now it's bordering on not being top 25. But that infrastructure that is there is still there. The issue is some of our best and brightest, not all, but some of our best and brightest right after college, they go, I got to get the fuck out of here because a 20-something who's got a nice career going or wants to have a nice career, there's either not opportunity to make as much as possible or socially, isn't it? Mm-hmm. My friends who live in St. Louis got married at 25 and, they're having kids. That's not where I want to be. That's not. So that's how I see it happening. If it's going to happen, I don't think this is like necessarily in the next few months, but that's how I could see it happening. So I realize that isn't necessarily tied to the Armory, but places like the Armory, I think, are successful if you have a bunch of 20-somethings who aren't necessarily married with kids wanting to go out and have a place to go, and then you do have the walkway you talked about to connect the Foundry and the Armory, and then it makes it a better business. Contrary to, what was discussed on TMA this morning with the crime, I don't believe that was the reason for it. Now, I guess I suppose you can dispute that if you want, but I don't believe that. It was a business that wasn't successful.
Yeah.
So then, like somebody else coming in, they better have a different plan because otherwise you're just buying a business that didn't succeed. And it's not like it's a low overhead business. So that's been my big contention, whether I was 23 years old and I'm going, God, man, like my buddies who like really have shit going for them for the most part, they're in Chicago or Boston or New York or, somewhere out of the country. And that's what I think kind of happens. You have a bunch of friends who live all over the country too.
Most.
Yeah.
Most. Unless they went to college with me.
But I think sometimes when I say this, and I'm not looking at the YouTube chat, I might be getting my ass, like it's like shitting on what we have. And that's not it. I mean, I lived here. I have 8 months in Little Rock. I've lived here, and I chose to stay here with other opportunities. But my obligation is to call a ball and a strike a strike. And I always think, I think had I not worked at KMOV, which by no means was like this wonderful, enlightening cultural experience, what I did get out of that, it was a great job when you're 23, 24 years old, and I was incredibly lucky to have it. But what I did get, I was not well-traveled. I'm still not well-traveled as far as like Europe or anywhere outside of the Western Hemisphere goes. But even in the United States, I wasn't well-traveled. And then the next thing you know, you're going on the road with the Rams or the Blues or the Cardinals, and so you're going all over. I mean, I don't know if there was a city. I guess Pittsburgh was the only city I don't feel like I've hit. Not that that's, Right. But other than that, because of those travels, and you go, holy shit, look what's going on here. Yeah. And look what's not going on at home.
Yeah.
We're missing out. But the sad thing is that same conversation, and now I'm in my late 40s, is still going on. And I just feel like the opportunity will be there where investors, not in St. Louis, will go, God, we could buy up this building in St. Louis, and there's a little momentum. I'm hearing this company might move there because it's so cheap. That 1% earnings tax for the city limit is a thing.
So that was kind of my question. I want to ask is, do you think a city-county merger could circumvent outside money coming in? So you could get rid of the 1% earnings tax, you could get rid of this other tax, you get more money going into the city. I think that will help from a governmental functionality standpoint, and I also think, perhaps more importantly, I often talk about the value of addition by subtraction. Yeah. The subtraction, I talked also earlier in this podcast about people who have a voice at the table because of dogma. Mm-hmm. Dogma oftentimes associated with religion. This has nothing to do with religion. This is just dogma of, I got to protect my, I'm going to speak up for you even though I'm really just here for my stupid shit, job that's rooted in these ridiculous municipalities or a billion wards in the city. Mm-hmm.
it takes the nonsense away from the table. We get rid of people who really don't belong at the table leading our community, but who get them because they get to be in charge of these little tiny communities, and they're all over the place. This isn't limited. People immediately go into the like North St. Louis default clique. It's not limited to it. There's plenty of wards all over the city of St. Louis. And remember, they voted to eliminate wards, and then they had another vote, and they were like, let's bring back the old wards. It's just, you know, and I look at it and I go, my God, they're making $35,000 or $40,000. Holy crap. I mean, that's, you know, for people who actually can move shit and get things done, you know, they're not doing it for the 40K,
right.
I assure you,
right.
You know, but that's what we got sitting at the table making our decisions. I'm not shitting on making 40K, but if you really want to move some mountains, most likely the person who can do it isn't going, ooh, I'm making 35, I guess I'll take my 40. You know, that's not the way the world really works. And you got to have conversations that might not be real polite, but fuck it. Do you want to get things done? Do you want to win? Or do you want to be nice? You know, and you know where I sit on that. And that's why I think that, going back to your thing, I don't think the city can get rid of it at this moment. But if you have enough businesses coming in and you have functionality of the county, then it would allow, I think, for getting rid of some of the nonsense that holds us back. Again, that's why I go back to addition by subtraction, both policy and people.
Yeah, I think with my point on the city-county merger possibly circumventing, I think more it would get St. Louis's ducks in a row and be better served if and when outside money comes in. If you have something like that already in place, where the earnings tax is gone and like the city has now got an influx of county money, like I think then if outside money came in, then you have the perfect storm of like, now we can really resurge, as opposed to outside money coming in and then trying to get the city and county.
Right. No, hey, listen, I agree with you. You know, again, some of this, I suppose, is like kind of, I've been privy to some things that would have happened, were going to happen, and then didn't wind up happening. And I know what the plan was, and so on and so forth. And, you know, I don't. Again, it gets to a point where you know. I mean, to come full circle, we started with college football. We had the wonderful lesbian anecdote from bikini model Brittany, and now we have the city question. I wanted to buy Boston College at plus 4,500. I don't want to buy Boston College at plus 2,200. Why 45 to 1 versus 22 to 1? It gets to a point that if St. Louis's pricing is so, you're going, I mean, I don't think St. Louis is going to become the next Nashville or Austin, but fuck, I'm getting 50 to 1 on my money.
Yeah.
I kind of got a responsibility. That's what my mindset was. And if you think that way, and I don't know, maybe everybody's like, yeah, I understand. You know, you're not like some fucking wizard here. I don't know. But that's how but then like when Boston College loses, I'll get an email like, oh, you loved Boston. I didn't love Boston College. I love Boston College 2% to win the ACC.
Right.
And I love it all day if I'm getting 50 to 1 on my money. If you are a, you know, investor, you're a VC, and you're going, holy shit, I mean, we can do this in St. Louis, but you have to have a pro-business leadership that can help facilitate those relationships to bring businesses to St. Louis and the region. Who in the community has that right now? And I'm not saying everybody's oblivious to it, but who has that right now that's at least in office? That's how it happens. The dollar, it's all about dollars. And it sounds harsh, and I know that can be a sore spot for some people, but that's how things happen. And I don't know, I never think, you know, sometimes my dad, Timmy, that guy's all about the money. I go, but we're all about the money. Like, why not? Why do we have to like act like that? Because that's what makes things move. Now, ideally, you get quality people in the positions of power when it comes to organizations that are representative of the region, such as like Tom Stillman with the Blues. I think Bill DeWitt with the Cardinals. Realize it's probably unpopular to say. Certainly the Taylors, my God, that's 100% philanthropic there with an MLS team. And what they've done in the city, that once they are in that position, where they have so much money that they're like, yeah, I want to give back. That's the high. I want to create my legacy, or I just want to give back because it's altruistic, whatever the reason might be. And then there's benefits to that. Or you could have what you see, take your pick of Stan Kroenke and Inglewood. Doesn't seem like legacy is something that he's really focused on. So with that all established, that's how I think things can get done. But it's always going to be about the money. And if you have money and opportunity, then you have young people wanting to either stay here or move here. And that, I think, is the domino effect. But hey, man, maybe I'm talking about something that's not going to happen or a 1 in 1,000 chance of happening. I'm looking at it through the lens of my now Boston College plus 4,500. That's my reasoning. It's not like if it's Boston College even money to win the ACC, I'm going, fuck, I'm not touching that. But 45 to 1, oh my God, I got to get on it. And then it drops to 22 to 1. I'm like, well, shit, now I missed it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think goes on. That goes on in investment in general. Like if the sharp money starts moving places, other sharp money will go, well, shit, I don't get it, but if the sharp money's there, I got to go where they're going, because there was a business in St. Louis. Maybe people know what I'm talking about. Predates you.
Sticker bus?
It was not Sticker Bus, although I would have loved. I lost a lot of money on the Sticker Bus.
I think a lot of people lost a lot of money on the Sticker Bus.
That just a bunch of some of the biggest money in town was investing in, but privately people go, I don't get it. I don't know what the fuck this is, but I know that this person and this person's in on it. You know, not like involved in the operations, but they invested in it, right. And it was so fun. I'm going, God, because I always viewed like that kind of money, not like the inherited, but like the smart money.
Sure.
Thinking at a certain level, and when in reality it was just like,
follow the leader.
Yeah, and I'm just like, it's kind of like how I guess I got it right, or I was whatever on the Rams thing and them moving, but my analysis of the Rams thing was, these guys are playing at a level that we as simpletons can't possibly understand. And in reality, it wasn't. It was just like, we're just going to do it. Fuck off.
Yeah.
And that'll do it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of, I kind of equate that to like the NFT boom that happened.
Great. That's that book that I was talking about on last week's podcast. They talked about that.
Yeah.
That's exactly a lot of that.
Right. People perceived who were smart, like bought up a bunch of this stuff. And then so did everyone else. And now
probably why it was fresh on my mind. But this business that was around in St. Louis, seeing if anybody's by chance popped in with the name of it in the YouTube chat. I'll get emails on it. I know I will. T. McKernan inside STL.com. And I'm just like, God, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what they do. He goes, our group's put money into it, but we were kind of thinking you might know what they do. Like, what the fuck do I know? I'm on AM radio, man.
Meanwhile,
and you're coming to me?
Yeah. Meanwhile, the person who owns the business is like, beautiful.
Oh my God.
Little situation I've built here.
I mean, it's just one of those, for the life of me. So that's how I think it can happen. I mean, for real, like if I was getting, obviously 50 to 1, I'd bet it. I don't know, 10 to 1 even. I really do. So you could say, like, what are the hot cities right now? And I'm not talking about Nashville or all. I'm talking about the ones that people wouldn't be hip to. Maybe you would
Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah, I feel like even that's kind of gotten into you already missed the boat on that. Savannah, I feel like, isn't kind of in there.
I think Alan Dave will put in the chat Chattanooga, which I haven't heard before.
Which is amazing to me, because when I would drive down to Florida.
Yeah, you go through it.
You drive through Chattanooga and you're like, what a shithole.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, what an absolute shithole. But I have heard that.
Yeah, Charleston, West Virginia, I've always heard like.
Charleston, West Virginia, not Charleston, South Carolina?
Well, I always equated Chattanooga to like Charleston, West Virginia, where you look around, you're like, what? Where are we?
Oh, yeah, I remember driving through. If that's the I-70 stretch,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
I thought that might have been like Wheeling, actually.
Wheeling is where that's where Jerry West is from. And
you just go, wow,
yeah.
I am definitely in a different part of the country when I'm going through. I mean, it really is. It's like the stereotype of what you would think.
Yeah.
That's the one in the little pointy part of West Virginia that I-70 goes through. Yeah, you're in West Virginia for like 3 minutes. Either way, so let's say it's Savannah, just for the sake of the conversation, or even Charleston, South Carolina, for the sake of that conversation. They may be moving in that direction, but they don't have the size of the region and the things in place that St. Louis already has to handle it.
Yep.
So in other words, like if, this might not work as an analogy, but if there was a demand from 60,000 people to have season tickets at a Doggies game, the fact that that thing doesn't hold close to that, it caps its ability to grow.
Yeah.
So St. Louis is actually positioned to take on an influx of population and business dollars. It's just kind of sitting there. I'm telling you, if I had the money or if I was part of something that had, I really would invest in it. And again, it's not because I think it's going to happen, but the payoff is so high if it does that it's worth it because your price point is so low. And I just think that people will see that. And by the way, I could be totally fucking wrong. Right. But when I'm driving down there and I'm looking at the place where I used to live at the corner of, I think it was 14th and Washington, or 16th and Washington, whatever, by Larry Rice's thing, the homeless shelter, above Flannery's. I'm just like, I can't believe how much it's changed in the 10 years since I lived there and how bad it looks. But at the same time, it's not like the buildings are gone. It's all still there. It's just empty.
Almost waiting to be.
It is. Because those buildings are, I mean, fuck, century old. I mean, they're old buildings.
Yeah.
They're just were gutted and redone. There's big office buildings there. That's not, that's done. That doesn't require demo and construction of building a skyscraper.
Yeah.
So that's where I just, by the way, it's not like I know a fucking thing. I want to make that clear. This isn't like a take from an inside business. I mean, I like Ella Reese. I like trying to be a scratch golfer. I like White Castle, but my wife can't be home. I mean, that's what I got.
Is that a shame meal?
She hates it. It's, I mean, it's a shame meal, but she hates like there was one time, I think she came home earlier, and as opposed to like, oh, fuck, I got some hooer over, it's like, oh, shit, I got White Castle here.
Imagine that.
I got to clear this out.
Imagine that, dart in mouth, PS2 controller in hand.
Oh, she'd rather me be like bottoming for like 10 guys than that. So, yeah, it's not like, hey, Tim McKernan said, and not that anybody like takes me as a credible, but I'm just looking at it through that lens. I think there's opportunity. I really do. But as you said, what has to come first,
right.
And then how does it?
Yeah, I think it could work either way. I just think that it could be quicker if the city and county merged ASAP.
I think if I'm looking through the lens of your age range.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things I think I used to say this on the radio too. I mean, so many things I've been obviously wrong on, and I'm happy to admit it and acknowledge it. I'm like, I just don't get what the deal is of buying a house. The fuck, because I just didn't understand money.
Right.
And I didn't understand the value of equity, which is embarrassing, I mean, that's what well, you're not just lighting money on fire and handing it to a landlord. Like, oh, yeah, okay, I don't know. It's the same place. And if anything, it's a nicer place. Plus, I don't have to have whatever to put down.
Yep.
You guys in these houses, I don't get it. As if the guy, whatever, making, I've got it figured out. You dumb shits with homes and owning real estate, you don't get it. Why aren't you motherfuckers renting?
Everyone should be renting.
Everybody should be renting. They've got it figured out in New York City.
Yep.
And because I just didn't understand equity. Yeah. Well, there's a whole generation of people right now, older than you, certainly, and also going younger than you, that can't afford a home.
Yes.
And on top of that, new homes aren't being built. So then people like in my situation with a 3% mortgage rate who would be looking to upgrade are going, if I were to buy a house that would be a quote-unquote upgrade right now, I'd be paying twice as much for like what I have already right now. So we're all kind of frozen.
Yeah.
And unless the people with the 2s and 3s start moving, you're not going to have this inertia change. And so therefore, hey, fine, I get my house continued. I'm paying mine off and I'm there, whatever. I would have liked to have been able to move on, I suppose, but whatever. I'm fine. But what about this whole generation that can't begin the process of accumulating wealth and building equity, not just here, but on the coasts?
Right.
And then they may be going, well, holy shit, I can't afford a house in this market, in this market, in this market. And then that's where I think our opportunity is. And then if you have the young money arrive, then you can have business arrive. And I just don't know which one has to take place first or if there happen to be a confluence for that opportunity. That's the lens through which I see it. Because I just don't think you're going to see rates drop down all of a sudden to like in the 4s, much less the 3s. Yeah. And so if that's the case, me and plenty of people I'm sure who will listen to this, sitting on a 2 or a 3, as weird as it sounds, your debt rate actually becomes an asset, which is fucked up to think about a debt service as an asset, but it is an asset because it's got financial value. And so there's going to be some inertia. Now, the change can take place, I suppose, when what is known as the boomers, but the baby boomer generation either moves out, dies, and then you have a flood of those homes onto the market.
Well, it might be 40,
But that's what I'm saying. These are valuable time. I mean, God almighty.
Right.
I mean, to me, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I can hang out with Jackson. I'm still 26. But the reality is, I'm just as close to fucking 69 years old as I am to your age range.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah.
My most valuable asset is my Roth IRA, my PlayStation 5.
That's what you got.
That's That's my valuable asset. I guess.
And
my
how does that
401k.
look on your balance sheet showdowns?
Yeah, right. Like I show up, I have a 401k, a Roth IRA that I started 3 years ago, and a PlayStation 5. That's what I got. That's my equity.
So have you ever had the balance sheet showdown with Mr. Licks?
It would take about 25 seconds. I don't even know what a balance sheet looks like.
Interest rate in the twos. Why would I leave? Dump all the equity from the sale into the new house and pay 3 times the rate? No thanks. That's MD 2020. Well, you just summed it up right there. I mean, there you go. There's your headline statement on it. But what I'm saying, as crazy as it sounds, which is why I say it's going to have to come from outside population and outside money, is a house that I guess I'll take my neighborhood, Kirkwood, that would be, I don't know. I'm just arbitrarily throwing things out. In Kirkwood, it's $500,000. And if you put it in Nashville, and I'm just guessing here, so I've been looking at Nashville real estate. Well, actually, you know what? I probably shouldn't say it, but a person I know is moving to Nashville and just is going nuts about how inexpensive things are relative there from a tax perspective. Mm-hmm. But cost of living or property values in St. Louis, you can get a hell of a lot more for your dollar than you can in most other cities that are top 25 markets. Yeah. And so that's how opportunity, people aren't just like, Boston, why not? Things had to happen in order for that to take place. Nashville, why not? Nashville been around for a while. It was just kind of a country music place. Things happen in order to get... But there has to be the right creation of a supply and demand set of circumstances that then open it up to, in my opinion, more so than anything, both businesses and young people. But if businesses arrive and they're hiring at great compensation packages or better than other places where your dollar is going to go get you more, that's when the young people come in. And that's where I think the opportunity is. Now, how that actually takes place with regard to, do the business have to come here first or do the young people have to come here first? Maybe, like I said, it's a confluence. I don't know if it happens if you get into a spot where they merge. I think that would be so poorly received that I don't know who's going to initiate it. You need somebody who's going to go in there and go, I don't really fucking care that we're going to do this. Here's the why we're going to do it. You can hate me. I don't care, but we're going to do this, and I can be the bad guy right now, and then in 10 years you can name a street after me. You don't really give a shit. Doesn't matter, but this is what we're going to do, and then just watch what happens. That's what I think you need. But if you got people who just want to hold on to office, or they want to run for governor or something like that, they're not going to do something that would be unpopular with their constituents. Yeah. And I don't think Sam Page or Tashara Jones have a lot of people knocking on their doors saying, hey, you ought to do this. And so therefore, you want to talk about inertia, we have inertia with season tickets. All right, how long are we going? Probably an hour and a half at this point.
Yeah.
All right, it's time to go.
I'll do it.
T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com. I want to see if anybody has emailed me the company. I really want to, because it was kind of one of those things. Like I said, it's about 15 years ago, and it was a St. Louis little phenomenon, and it just kind of went away. And I'd be curious what happened to the money that the people put in. That just kind of go away as well. But big money was going into it. Anyway, Jackson, T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com. Bikini model Brittany gave us an erotic story. I know you're still turned on.
Yeah, I've been tucking it ever since that story, and still as of right now, I'm fully torqued.
Oh, that's so hot, bro. Yep. That's Jackson Burkett. He's fully torqued. I have a soft cow. Is the episode titled Jackson's Torqued and Tim has a soft cow? I think that's the right thing. Yeah. Indicative of what we talked about. Yeah, absolutely. That is how you can get involved. T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com. For Jackson Burkett, I'm Tim McKernan. This has been the Tim McKernan Show podcast.